minister in the context of developing a world. Food, shelter, clothing, and water come from where? Land. I can't hear you. Land. So I bring you the divine minister of agriculture for the new world, Brother Fred Carter.
1967. Wow. I started in 1967 at a Canessa on Halsted in Chicago. And that was the beginning of my journey, 1967. I was in Hebrew in 1967.
You can take it out. You want to take it out? Because you can walk around.
1967.
Yes, sir.
There was a major transformation in my life. It was about building a new world. And a lot of us went to different schools, learning plumbing and all these types of skills to build a new world. Some of us didn't leave, and some did. But I wanted you to know that's a powerful statement. It really awakened something in me. I forgot about that. Back to the land, 1967. There was one brother named Casey. A lot of us don't know that. He bought 500 acres just south of Chicago. And they couldn't get enough people to hold it. But I want you to know, being on the land is being with the Creator. Because when you look at soil, so what is soil? Soil is cosmic particles. So the soil is made from the universe. Now we don't know that. We was taught that it was dirt. Okay, we was taught that soil is dirt, and my relationship to dirt is not honorable. In fact, we had such a powerful relationship to soil that we were enslaved because of it. And so we got all these memories, painful memories, and children have it and don't even know it. I've seen it. We've had thousands of children come to our place. They got this memory of pain. But my daddy said, boy, you're doing everything we ran away from. They have that memory. It don't last long. You put a child around soil, he'll forget the memory. And he'll get present to the cosmic energy that's living in that soil. Not only does the soil is the pathway to our freedom, it was the pathway to our enslavement. So the way out is through the soil. Now, we don't think soil is important because the European call it dirt. Okay, it's black, like me. It's not an honorable thing. But everything that exists came from the soil. From the drugs, the gold, the fabric on your body, how I got here physically came from the soil. Oil comes out of the soil, right? It took fossil fuels for me to get here, to be here with y'all today. It took fossil fuel to make this. And what we have to begin to look at is our relationship to reality. Like the brother said earlier, reality is this. We've been taught reality is some invisible something. And we want you to abide by, focus on the invisible while I take the reality away from you. Why do you think we left our land? They told us to praise bricks. We went to the land, to the city to worship bricks. But they forgot to tell us, we forgot that the brick came from the land. We don't own the brick. Because if you don't pay your taxes to a great extent, they're moving us around now. Gentrification, they call it. But farming is not just the soil, but it's the ocean too. Agriculture is the harvesting of goods and values from the soil and the ocean. So that's what we were masterful at. We were so good at it, we got in trouble with it. We was enslaved because of our mastery of the soil and the land. And right now, our people are suffering because they have no relationship with the land. I've seen children come out. I mean, I grew up in Chicago. I used to be a thug in Chicago. I was gangbanging and doing all that. We did a lot of terrible things when I was younger. But it was something about the land. My dad never take us to the country on the weekends and then during the summer to keep out of trouble. When your feet touch the ground, just be conscious of it. You discharge all your anger. Now, in the city, it's kind of hard to discharge your anger because you're mostly standing on concrete. All that does is insulate that. See, soil discharge your pain. Okay? I don't know if you ever seen, my wife is a physician, but she's a medical doctor, but she uses alternative medicine. I've seen people come to her place who they buried their body in the soil to be healed. And soil discharge pain. And because we're not connected to the soil, we got all types of diseases. Diseases, and how I'm using it as a disconnect to reality. And I know we don't like to talk about farming in our community, except recently, whites have come into our community, got our babies, took a little snapshot, and got a grant. And they did a garden. And they say we're going to teach these black children how to grow food. Isn't that amazing? The master who taught everybody. I was with some elders one day. He said, boy, at Malcolm X College, he said, what are these white people running all in our community for with our children? Well, they say they're going to teach your children how to grow food. Well, we know how to grow food. Y'all not talking to us. So the disconnect to the land is also a disconnect to your past, your ancestors, your history. And you can't be present without a connection to your past. So agriculture, which is a lot of people come out and say, oh man, I don't want to be in the dirt. I don't want to learn nothing about soil. But you know this soil, this fabric was made from the soil. My genes were made from the soil. Just imagine if you grew the fabric that made the soil and you made the genes. Would you be in poverty? Just imagine if you made the fabric that allowed me to walk on these shoes. Would you be in poverty? Just imagine if you made the fabric, but not only the fabric, but the food that you eat every day. We do 3 markets with Cook County hospitals every week. They contract us, say, we want these markets for these poor black people. You know, it's like an experiment in some ways to reduce our financial burden because of their illness. That's the bottom line, right? They don't have the money to treat people like they used to, public health. They want to make sure that people know that food is an element in there because they created the problem with the food. They don't want you to know it. Because if you can look at food and trace the elements in the food, it traces back to a corporation that you can sue because they harm your well-being. That's a liability issue that nobody wants to talk about. Not only did it harm my well-being, but it's disrupted my brain to where I can't think straight and I shot my mother. I can prove to you, and they know this now. So the value of food, the value of land is so critically important. I can't tell you enough. I didn't know what to say when I got here. I know I've been pretty upset at my community because we're the most severely impacted by food. And we don't want anything to do with it other than eat. Okay? We want to eat what we're given. I remember Elijah Muhammad told us one time that they're going to start feeding us by the shovel. I thought this guy was crazy. I didn't know what he meant. But we are being fed like a feedlot of animals. Okay? And we don't have a shovel. So our children are having high degrees of sensitivity. I've never in my life heard of anybody dying from eating peanuts until recently. I grew up, I didn't have to worry about eating no peanuts. My mother didn't have to carry a syringe around and shoot me in my heart because I got exposed to a peanut. Yeah. We have to gain control of our food. And the controlling of the food is $1 trillion industry. Do you know that just in the 2nd Congressional District, Black people eat $1.6 billion of food every single year. That's Congressman Kelly's district. That's not Bobby Rush's district. That's not Mr. Jackson, what's Danny Davis. Black people eat billions in food. And we're the poorest people on the planet. Right? Just imagine if we just shifted 5% of what we eat into our pockets. That's a different conversation to be in. That's the possibility of what food can be for us. The other element we have about food is that it's a terrible job. Oh, it's not sexy. It's not fast. It's not vogue. But do you know, just look at the potato chips that you eat every day. Just look at all the candy, all the material, all the food items, the hots and all that somebody else is making and making billions off your consumption and your illness. We were powerful people in growing and making products from food. We started the company. Your ancestors started it. Europeans didn't know how to grow no food. We did. And we've been committed at Black Oak Center because there was a meeting we went to in 2000. We was running around with all these uncles. I call white people uncles. And they were talking about the times that we're living in right now. They said, my God, there was going to be shortages of water. There's going to be shortages of materials to make things. There was going to be shortages of this and that. And the people who's going to be the most severely impacted because they don't control any of it was Black people. I don't have a friend that decides what products come into the community. Do you? Or make a decision whether or not something should come in. We don't have that kind of power. But we can, because it will come from the community, not coming into the community. That's a different paradigm. So we looked at, since this was something that was going to happen, and they're going around the world teaching their community. That's when we was in sustainability and energy. They said it's going to be a global crisis around food, water, energy, and material to make goods. And the lack of the material to make goods is what they call no growth economy. That's what you're experiencing right now. Look at General Motors. I used to be at General Motors. Just a mile from here, I had 200 people working for me. I ran the 8th largest distribution center for General Motors. Right over here on Joe R. Road in Ford Heights. Okay? We ran the Union Pacific Rail Distribution Center for GM. I was a tier 1 for General Motors for 3 years. They don't care about your future. Okay? I don't know what plant you're at. I was at the Ford plant on Torrance for 10, 15 years. We became a tier 1 for GM because we was moving them, called the parking lot. And I never realized that the oil in the ground was going to impact my future. Okay? Oil comes from the earth. Everything you do is based on something that comes from the earth. Do you know you eat oil? Do you know it takes 20 calories of oil to produce 1 calorie of food? And we don't think that way because we don't know. Our children are being educated. Let me show you something. Our people are being educated into a world that's gone. Okay? If you're not going to be into feeding yourself, who will? Okay? If you're not looking at the science and technology around food for yourself, who will? Well, we learned in this workshop, which was about 600 European, there was only 2 black people, 3 plus my son, in the room. They forgot we was there. Okay, it was so many of them. They said, and it happened, now, it's happened. This was in 2004 and 5, that our community was going to experience a collapse because we had no control over the food, no control over the energy, we don't create jobs, and we just adamant consumers. I used to have debates in my living room with my friends, you know, Bubba, and they would say this would never happen. Everything those crackers said happened. Okay? Everything they said happened. The one thing that they said was going to happen, that our children would not have the privilege or power that we had. And I didn't understand what they meant by that. You know who those children were? Do y'all remember the 99ers? Remember all those kids marching, white kids marching all over the country back when Obama came in? All on Wall Street complaining about, I only got $1,200 in my bank account. Sound like a black man to me. And he got 2 babies. I'm working 2 jobs and I can't take care of my family. I'm working 3 jobs and I can't take care of my family. That was their children. And the reason why is because of the lack of sufficient resources to keep the machine going. Right. They don't have it. And those that don't control their resources are not likely to be here. That's what they were saying. And they also were sharing with us that it was an intentional design. It wasn't random. The last thing you want to know is that the design and behavior that's going on right now was designed. It wasn't accidental. The thing that changed the most, this whole thing about our community is so terrible right now and all this kind of stuff they're putting out there, you know, your children and this and that, that was designed. Not that you only had one parent. Most of us didn't have but one parent at home. But the thing that changed the most was the food. Do you know that the food that I ate and that you're eating right now is not the same? And that the elements, the food that my mother ate is not the same that I ate. And my grandmother didn't even have that. So what you have now is a greater concentration of chemicals that's been used and introduced in the food chain because you don't control it. I'm just sharing with you, we don't control it. Whites are waking up. We've had parents, I used to do the desk in my wife's medical practice, I used to do the scheduling. And there was once a white woman came in representing a group of white people who were sick and tired of their children, girls administrating at 8. So they would bring the children into my wife, my baby act like she's 12, 14 years old. She's menstruating like a woman, right? What they did was decided that they was going to only feed their babies organic. Because the chemicals at the McDonald's was disrupting the hormonal balance of their children. And so they was behaving like they was 14 and 20 years old at 8. So the awareness is already there. But what happened out of that awareness? They created a $1 billion industry called organic foods, addressing the problem that they created, and decided that they were going to move out of it, because if my children are healthy, we can't maintain power. Okay, that's why they changed the legal laws for drugs. If my children are healthy, we can't maintain dominance. So, but that's not happening in our community. I taught a class in Chicago at King School. The children at 8 and 10 years old had hypertension. It shocked me to death.
Wow.
And I was wondering why when they come out of the class, they would go downstairs, and when they would come back, I couldn't do anything with them. So I followed the children. I saw what they was feeding them in the school. Excuse me, Bob. Hell, no wonder they couldn't sit in the seat. Well, if you look at the chemicals in the food that those babies were eating, that disrupt their behavior, their sense of the ability to be calm and present. And I'm saying that's a dangerous thing. What I'm present to now, the reason we don't see this as a danger is because of the food that we've been eating has dumbed us down. Okay? Our brains are not present. We physically can't be present long enough to see a real danger. We can't see it. And because of the food, it's amazing. Even if you reduce the consumption of dense proteins or reduce the amount of sugar, you can't imagine what your body does. The input into our community is designed to make sure that we stay in a state of cloudiness. The first layer of that has been the food. The second layer is the fabrics. Your fabrics are so contaminated with petrochemicals that it disrupts your biological expression. Okay? So food, chemicals, growing the food, but man, if we was growing hemp, okay, if we were growing our own hemp, that's a high value product that you can do Vogue things with, right? High fashion, but it's a material that does no harm. What they call that? Organic and natural. Who's dominating that now? White people. They charging high premium dollars for fabrics that don't hurt. Now you know that's kind of crazy, right? You got to pay premium dollars for something that don't kill you. Something wrong with that kind of logic, right? That's European logic. You're going to pay more for what makes life worse. You're going to pay less for what doesn't make life work. And what do? We consume the other that doesn't make life work, because it's so-called cheap. So we choose death. But, man, this is amazing. I want to invite everybody to choose life. Okay? Life has profitability. In choosing life, you can make money. Okay? Not only in choosing life you can make money, you can also enhance your talent, your skills, your community. You can regenerate wealth where you live. Now, they tell us we don't have no land. We did a survey in the 2nd Congressional District, which is where the concentration of black people are. We got a lot of land. See, we can't keep looking and listening to what people are saying. You don't have anything. You don't have this. You're not educated. We said education earlier is the problem. But I understand education. Education is designed to maintain the structure that exists right now.
Yes, sir.
You're being trained to maintain what's there.
Yes, yes, yes.
You're not being trained and educated to create a future, just to maintain health. Our training and education is centered around maintaining health and our suffering. But food is the low-hanging fruit. Okay? It's the low-hanging fruit. Food and institutional development around food is what they call in economics a multiplier of 3. For every job you create from food, you create 3 more jobs. And if we take what we put in our mouth and decide to provide some of it, that's a major economic shift, not only in our pockets, but also in our bodies too. And now, since we have a challenge around food, you know, coming from automotive, I used to design what they call just-in-time systems and supply chain management. We have a just-in-time food system. Do y'all know that? You know what I mean by just-in-time?
Teach it to us.
They don't carry no food in storage. Okay? I want the food, just like the widget, to be there just when I want to eat it.
Right.
Okay? Now that our food comes from Mexico, Brazil, Israel, Colombia, Canada, it ain't in the neighborhood no more. I remember just a good example of how dangerous that is, right? When we was at the Ford plant, since Ford has what they call just-in-time systems, all of them do now, there was a driver who decided to take a little pit stop at some hotel with a lady. And that product that he had on that truck shut the whole plant down. Okay, and shutting the plant down during that time, it cost whoever it was cost that, you had to pay $10,000 a minute.
Hey, tell him that again, bro.
You had to pay $10,000 a minute. I don't know what the price is now, but everybody went crazy in that plant. Everybody went out in the street looking for this truck driver. Because the cost of that production line to go down was $10,000 a minute. We have a food system designed like that now. It's efficient when it works, but when it doesn't work, it's collapsed. I was in Atlanta when they had their first snowstorm in 1993. Atlanta never had snow before. It tore up the whole, we couldn't get food in, it was just only 12 hours that the trucks couldn't get in. But we had a food riot that they never talked about. I was in line like everybody else, standing in front of the store, trying to get some food, and they couldn't get the food in. That's because we got a just-in-time food system. They don't carry it, just like in the biblical day when I think it was Paul that was talking to the king of Egypt about the Joseph.
Yes, sir.
7 years of famine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The Egyptians had to put in storage food for the crisis.
Yes.
We're in that space now, but we don't have any food. You know you only got 2 days supply of food? If we had a terrible storm here in Chicago, the food would be gone within 12 hours. Nobody can get in. Just imagine, okay, the food comes from California. 90% of our vegetables used to come from California in the wintertime. They can't get here. Traffic. They can't even fly in here. My wife was trying to fly in here Monday. She couldn't get in. Our food is very insecure. And the most easily impacted by that are what they call the poor and disadvantaged people. We don't grow it. We don't control it. But we eat it. What, 3 meals a day? Most of us, a lot of us. But we only 9 plates away from collapse. 9 plates. because of the food system that we have. And so food is so important, not just to eat, the pleasure and all that in it, but your own security in the future. Food is the most primal element in any civilized life. And because of the food, our community is being decimated. So our health, the economics, our genetic future is in your plate. The most political thing that you can ever see at the table is your plate. Whoever controls that plate control your life.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, we talk about hormones disrupted. And at our place, we have a lot of activists comes out. And this whole thing about gender issues, homosexuality, all the people don't want to touch that dirt, right? And so we got all these young people coming, it's like confusion about who I am and who I'm not. And gotta love them with compassion because they didn't make the choice. Okay? The Catholic Church used to make the choice for us because they would physically violate you. But the hormones disrupting chemicals in the food chain, in your fabric, is altering your genetic expression. Okay, so you can't be angry at people no more. And it's they're what they're saying is true. I got up, I felt this way ever since I was at a certain age. Even though biologically and structurally it doesn't match. But the chemical and introduction into it is altering our genetic future. And there's coming a space where the technology is now coming in where they're going to design the genetic future. That was the experimental phase of it. The controlled population phase of it. To depopulate black people. Okay? And so we have people coming out, it's not a homosexual thing at all. It's nobody's at fault except the person that put the chemicals, if there's a fault at all. So we can't be mad at our young people. You can't be mad at your brothers and sisters. They didn't make the choice. The choice was made from the chemicals induced. And that's not the most terrible thing about it. The health implications of this chemical experiment is worse than anything we ever imagined. Because the disparity of your health, your life cycles has been awful. My grandmother lived to be almost 100. She had less of it in her system when she grew up than I did. My son got more. His son, if he has sons and kids, they're going to even have more. The health challenges that we're having now is coming from our food system. It's important that you be actively engaged in that because you don't even know who you is. Because who you think you is was designed by the chemical induction into your food chain. My thoughts, most of my behavior is a chemical transaction. Your thoughts are chemical, very physical. Now they're learning through social media how to control the chemicals, the stimulus, through thoughts and the food. I don't know if I'm making sense to you. You're thinking that you're thinking. I thought I was thinking, right? Yeah, and my thoughts are mine. What do you mean my thoughts? You don't have a thought. You got an imprint. And I can induce something in the chemical chain that would tell you how to think. So you see the high level of breakdown with us, well, we can't even relate to each other without violence. It's not accidental. When your body is in a state of homeostasis, you have more peace. You're not agitated. You have the capacity to be resilient. You have the capacity to see a danger and respond to it. Okay? When you don't have that, you can't see the danger. That could be a mechanism for survival too. So I remember growing up, I couldn't hear either. So when people come out to our land, the first thing we do is take the phones away, especially young people. And we ask them when they get off that bus, leave the phone there and tell us what you heard when you walked 2,500 feet to the back. No talking. Because when you're in the city, because we're in an environment that we're bombarded with noise and sounds and technology, we didn't even notice the guy when he pulled his gun out on the corner. Okay, we didn't even hear it. I used to be out there. If you can't hear, you can't survive. Okay? You gotta be quiet enough to hear, like any animal in the environment. It's like they had the tsunami, that big storm. The animals heard it, but the people didn't. They perished because they couldn't hear. So our children are dying because they can't hear. That's intentional now. It's not accidental. What I'm sharing with you is what they call science. So food, connecting with the land actually increase your survivability. Because when you can't hear, see, or feel, you didn't even notice the conversation on that hill. I mean, you didn't hear that. You didn't even notice it. And when you don't notice and hear and see, your capacity to be resilient and survival is less. We live in a world that's so dangerous, so threatening. We got to heighten our capacity to see, hear, and feel. Okay? Food has a lot to do with that. Just imagine when you wake up in the morning, you feel terrible, right? You physically don't feel that well, but you tell yourself that you're thinking with clarity. My thoughts was very clear that day. I had gas. I had pain in my stomach, but I'm thinking with the highest clarity possible as a human being. What I said to you, brother, came from clarity. You know, when I said to her, it came from clarity. It came from pain. So we're not designed really to suffer. We ain't supposed to be suffering. Our suffering is our lack of self-knowledge. So this might not be a most important conversation to most people. The greatest power you can have in an environment when you don't have guns and money is your capacity to be resilient, knowing yourself. We don't control the guns. Police shoot us all day long. Even if we got guns, we don't make shells. Okay, so I'm telling you, I've had brothers say, we'll shoot. I said, man, how many people can you shoot? You don't make the bullets. So that's not the answer for survival. The gun isn't the answer. But our ability to control our microenvironment. And let me share something with you. If you can design a garden that diffuses your anger. And I don't care where you live, you can do that in your backyard. You can create what they call micro spots that diffuse the anger. So when y'all come into that space, it's a greater possibility that you'll be having a different conversation. Okay? And having a different conversation allows you to be more resilient. Okay? We can create through food and plants environment that embrace life. They call it permaculture. Okay? In fact, right now, I was probably still is the first and only black in North America that teaches that. Okay? And I'm not sharing it's just known, it's what it is. And they don't want us to know that. They want our environment to be violent. They want us to be violent so we can't see what they're really doing. Okay? Violence in that form is a distraction. I used to do it. I was in the world of distraction on 79th Street. And when I was a disciple. But the real world is the one that's impact my future. Okay? I don't have control over my future. It's going to be so important that if you're young, or even no matter what age you are, you want to control tomorrow. You don't want to give that control to somebody that wants you in the grave. Okay? And I don't mean to be heavy and significant about this. But it's a lot of fun in addressing that problem. It's a wonderful experience to grow something and you taste it. It's great to see the vibrantness of your body from the practice of using it. Because you don't want to be dropped into some robot. We've seen that movie called Transition. You know, they transfer the brain patterns into we're going there now. It's wonderful to feel yourself in the wind with plants. And it's even more wonderful if you get paid to do it. Okay?
That's right.
Not only is it wonderful in the act itself, but it's the compensation is wonderful. Do you know right now, the food system is so bad, if you was growing food, people in the next 5 years will be beating their doors down to buy your food. Right now, climate change has changed the game. We can't grow food in California. They don't have no water. Okay? They don't have enough water. Just imagine if the black community got all this land, what, 20 million acres. 20 million acres that black people have, and land that's sitting around them and that they may own, was growing food. We would be the most highly valued person again, but you're not going to enslave us this time. Okay? We're not going to be enslaved. I want to control the distribution of my food. I want to be able to do the value add of my food. I want to take a product. We got a young brother that did over $150,000. You blew me away. You know what he did? He dried some seconds. What I mean by second is somebody that couldn't sell it at the market. He took the seconds, kale, and made kale chips. Okay? He made kale chips. This guy wasn't even 30 years old.
Wow.
Something simple like that. And he made over $150,000 selling kale chips. I don't know if you make that selling drugs in 1 year. At least if you did, you didn't have to worry about somebody doing something to you. But with food, you can make that kind of money. I got another friend of mine, he's a white guy. We call him the Crimpy, the guy with permaculture. This guy took $300 and took recycled wood and made a greenhouse. You can grow marijuana in it sometime now. I think that's what they're doing. But he chose to grow herbs and spices. He did $100,000 selling his herbs and spices on a $300 investment. We can make a living with food, family.
Yes, sir.
But we're just not in the game. We're just in the other side of it. We just want to eat it. You got to eat. But you want to control what comes into your mouth because your life cycles and future is affected by that. So what we want to be able to do is teach that. We've had people come to USD from USDA. I can show you guys growing apple making $1 million a year. They don't tell us that.
Wow.
They're making $1 million a year growing apples. I know people that are making $50,000 an acre. They don't tell us that. They don't want you to know the power of food. You know, they don't want you to know. And the reason I'm saying is, there's a window of opportunity that's open.
Yes, sir.
Right now, they don't have enough. Right now, we can't get enough food. Not good food, but there's a big demand in the local communities for food. They call it gold. Everybody, the millennial, they call that kind of label. It's just a mislabel. They are spending more money on food that don't kill them. Because everybody is sick and tired of being sick. Everybody, even if you're young, you're sick and tired of being sick.
Right.
So we need to learn the industry called food, the food industry. Look at the warehousing, that's the transportation, the distribution, the packaging. That's just one element. It's not just putting a seed in the ground. Suppose you value added that potato. And that potato that you value added is being sold. Suppose you did the education around it. It's just a lot in agriculture and food related that we need to go into as a group. Right now, who's moving in that group is not us. And what they're doing in that is coming to our neighborhood because we're the only market left. Black people is the last market, untapped frontier food. I'm telling you that now because that's what I've been doing for the last few years. Cook County alone, it's $1 billion a year in linked card transactions. Just in Cook County. Now, what majority of population is spending that $1 billion? Black people. So you got the whites that coming in into the community, restaurants and stores and all this to try to capture those dollars. We need to do that ourselves.
Right.
Why you can't capture your own dollars? What's wrong with taking it out of this pocket and put it over here? I don't think anything wrong with that, right? And when you take it out of this pocket, you put it back here. And when you take it out of that, you put it over on the left side. And before it goes out of your range, I'll pass it to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And I'm gonna pass it to you. That's what they do. You can make a lot of money in the food industry. And I need young people that can see that. You can learn that, get into it. You can't let your other groups, like now they're doing aquaponics in Chicago, right?
Yes.
They're growing fish and vegetables in a closed loop system. You know you can build, I built one, you know you can build that for less than $1,000?
Wow.
You know, it's not rocket science, it's just straight science. And it's a simple technology. You can grow fish. Because you know black people eat more fish than anybody, right? That's why Doc's was so successful. We consume more fish than any group. And it's a simple process that you can do in the neighborhood. Okay, in the neighborhood. You ain't got to be all industrial first. You can small, micro system. If it did nothing but provide a fish for you and your family and your friends, it's right there. Surplus you can sell. These are the future. This is the future of food. You're not going to be able to grow a lot of food out on the land. It's going to be very complicated to do it in an open environment. We're sitting in Chicago, we're going to have water problems here in Chicago, even though we got the Great Lakes. We got problems, people. We got problems around climate, soil depletion, not counting all the other stuff that you got to be dealing with. But what we can be is a highly valued group of folks because we are concentrating on an area that's going to be highly valued. We have to concentrate on what's going to be highly valued. And hopefully out of that, by being more valued as a group because our mastery over another cycle around food, again, we were so good with it. We got George Washington Carver. I mean, we got in so much trouble because we were so good with plants and soil and animal, all of it. We fed the plant. You know that? When you look at the history of the foods industries, what they call sustainable food industries, it was us, all over the world. All over the world. Wherever we were masterful at feeding ourselves. They call it green now. Vogue, let's be green and sustainable. Make big money being green and sustainable. But we're the leaders. You have it genetically encoded in your memories. You can see it in the babies. And when it awakens, you don't have to have a degree to put to do this. You don't need a PhD to grow a tree. One sister in Kenya, what was her name? Dr. Magaya, when I saw her film, Taking Roots, and I recommend that everybody, if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch Taking Root, because it shows the history and how we was taken away from the land and what that caused us as a race. But not only us as a race, but the planet. You guys are leaders. When black people step into a game, we lead. Okay? And you want to be in the game where the lead is the area that you're in is so critical that people can't do without. You want to be in a space where something that you do you can't exist without. Food is one of them. Energy is another. Building and using natural material is another. You gotta have building. You gotta be energy conscious. These are areas of concentration that our young people need to be. We need to support them, whatever it takes for us to support them. They need to know the science of food. Do you know that a person with a degree in food agriculture come out of college with a $150,000 salary?
Wow.
Okay? Just in food. 100 is not enough for them. They come out ready. So if we're going to go in that arena, it should be a design arena with a potential outcome that's going to create the capacity to be valued over time. If we was dominating the science of food, like I was trying to get my son has 3 degrees. He went to IIT. I'm glad he did. But I said, baby, I was at this solar energy class, and these guys were making $250,000 a year. I said, why ain't no black people over there? Then he went to wind turbine operation. He was making that same kind of money. We're not in those areas that concentrate on solving problems. We need to help our children because we all need energy too. Our community needs energy. We need food. We need safe food, healthy food, which is also medicine too. So, I don't know what you was expecting. We'll talk about growing food, but food energy is very critical. And for young people in their future to be in not just technology, but the technology of food. Okay? Not just go out there and do social work. You have to create a path that will create value over time. And if you're not doing that, you will not be valued over time. You may not be here because you don't hold value for the ecosystem. So food is the low-hanging fruit to that doorway. We can do it through food without being a threat initially. Okay? Because at some point, what happened to me over here, I was doing $12 million a quarter. My payroll a week was over $500,000. It was 25 black people in the country. Bob Hatcher was one, he was doing $1 billion. Y'all don't know this. But we didn't have control over that industry. So whites decided that, boy, y'all too big for y'all britches. Okay? So what we have to do in this conversation, we have to control our energy. We have to control our transportation. So as you develop your food system, nobody can tell you that, boy, you too big for your britches. Your people can't eat. We're not going to sell you no fuel. I make biodiesel. The reason I'm saying this, the energy is important, right? I learned how to make fuel from used grease. We got a lot of it in our neighborhood, right? I used to go to Soul Vegan restaurant back there with Sirac and pumping that grease out of them barrels after they got through cooking the food. And I made fuel that I ran in my truck for 90 cents a gallon. And that surplus fuel I sold to my neighbors. One time I made $1,000 in 1 month. Now this is a waste stream that, you know, the average person uses 5 gallons of grease every year. So if you multiply 5 gallons times the number of people in our neighborhood, we got a lot of waste. Yeah. They call it waste, but now on the stock market it's called yellow grease. Okay, let's look at it. It's a commodity now. So making your energy, don't think like, I'm being real deep with you now. It's a path to solving problems with energy. It's a path, it's a future of solving problems around food. You want to become a problem solver and not just a consumer of those items. And you want to start doing it soon because there's no clear leadership in it right now. There's no leadership in it right now because it's a war amongst white people. They're fighting. We could just slide on in. Okay? They're fighting right now. The oil industry, the new industry around. We're going to make sure our people survive because of climate change. While they're doing all that, we just slide on in. You know, we be green people. You don't have to shoot us now. So I'm providing you high value food. I didn't really get the value of that until I went to a class in Colorado. I went to a meeting and everybody was fighting over this guy's salad. Fighting over the salad. Crazy, right? Everybody, these are white people fighting over the salad. You know, and I said, man, that salad must be awful good for them to be that committed. How good it was. They were scuffling over this food, salad. But when I went to the guy's place, he was one of my teachers at that point. He had built so much biological nutrients in that soil. When he put that seed in there, when you ate what came out of it, you saw why they was fighting. Wow. Okay? You saw for yourself that food made you feel so darn good when you ate it. You know, it was when you eat food like that, you might not know food like that. When you eat it, you feel more alive. They felt more alive. But then I learned how he did it. He cultivated that soil. That's what we used to do as a group, as a race. We knew the soil biology, but we didn't go to college for it. The soil was so rich. When we ate the food from the soil, it enlivened our body. That's a high value product that they pay a lot of extra money for now. We need to slide on into that door. We need to slide into that door so you know you got a future. Do you know you have a future? Yeah. Your future got to be based on something that has value over time. Music is one expression. If you can't eat, music don't mean nothing. Okay? Running up and down the court. If you ain't got good food, you won't run long. Okay? Singing, dancing, and all these elements are part of cultural expression. But the cultural driver was always in agriculture. We told stories and sang stories around the stories and legends of animals in agriculture. Our wisdom came from agriculture. I didn't really get that until I saw a weasel. And it said, you're scared like a chicken. That makes sense to me earlier. Go back to the land and see where the wisdom came from. Observe the animals. You're talking about sly like a fox? What did that really mean? When you see a fox, how clever and creative a fox is, then you can really see what that really meant. Or somebody call you a weasel. You don't know what the weasel is. I saw a weasel kill all my chickens. He was very ingenious in doing it. Slick, slide and scream through the cage. I mean, I thought I had it designed nice, but he found a way around. Wow. So animals, plants, is the basis of all wisdom. And the other reason why it's the basis of all wisdom because they're based on biological cycles. not technological cycles. Technology don't have much wisdom. It's clever, but it's not much wisdom, because wisdom allows you to think and create something that keeps value over time. Our technology changes every 6 months. Okay? That's by design. But value over time. And I want you to realize too, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have the time I have. See, young people think they got time. Unfortunately, we didn't allow y'all the privilege to have the time, because a lot of stuff we didn't do. Had to own it. It's a lot of stuff my generation didn't do that would allow you more time for a much longer learning curve. Get out there and make all the mistakes and all that. You don't have the same time that I had to do all the stupid things. I had a longer window. My father had one longer than me, but right now we got a short one. So what we have to do is what I call merge time. They call it merging time, collapsing time. That's by bringing the young and the old together. That's how you fold time. You can get value from my bullet holes faster than you haven't experienced yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay? You can get value, and we got to honor each other, because the separation is a false separation.
Yeah.
And the reason we've been separated because they make money on that. Do you know they design products for ages? People at certain cycle ages. It's all an economic thing. Women from men, separation, and all the people separated. I remember a guy was telling me that they used to have communal lifestyle. Y'all familiar with communal lifestyle? They were mad at this group because they bought one toaster. Okay? And everybody shared the toaster. Well, the manufacturer didn't like that. I want everybody in this house, even the baby, to have their own toaster. Okay? So I made sure that I educated everybody in the house to have a toaster. Like everybody got cars now.
Right.
Or want to have cars. I remember we had to navigate with one car. I don't even know how we did it. But that's a unit of economic unit. But we don't control it. We don't own means of production. If we was producing it, we would think about it differently. We design what they call now green technology. Okay? We need to be there. Whatever it takes for our young people to be there, we got to be uncompromised, because they don't have what we have. They don't have the window to mess up like we did, or be irresponsible. We've been very irresponsible. We saw this stuff, but we didn't do anything. We drank that Kool-Aid. Okay, we was drinking Kool-Aid. And when we lost the rhythm and the awareness of what was going on out there, we knew this. This is what we're saying now, right now. It's been said for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Okay, but we didn't do anything. So somewhere we got to take the language, a language of action, not delay. They call that divine speech. My word and who I am is the same. As many times as you can do that, your level of productivity will accelerate. The time you slow off and want to be like an animal, just close. That's good too, because you can't run like a machine. But I'm just letting you know now, you don't have a lot of time. Within the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to have food collapse in Chicago. Okay, we already got water problems. I got friends who couldn't grow food. They had tornadoes, tore up 10,000 nut trees in Mississippi. And we got water problems in the industrial areas because of the way agriculture operates and extraction of energy. So we got to embrace each other. I'm telling you, I hadn't been talking to people in about 5 years. We have to embrace each other because we don't have a lot of time. Now, I know he was talking about Jimmy the Cricket.
I'm gonna show that. I'm gonna show that.
You show that?
No, what we're gonna do, we're gonna show that right now. Bring you back so you can.
Right.
Yes, so you can respond to it.
Time is important. You're young. It feels like you got forever, except you worry about somebody shooting you. Okay, as a black male. My son, they'd be blowing me. They've already did their eulogies. All that blew me away when I saw young people doing that. You know, who gonna bury me? Who's the pallbearer? I never heard that kind of conversation when I was coming, but that's the conversation they all have. That's the reality they live in. So we don't have a lot of time. Okay?
Stay right there. Let's go.
And that's not a bad thing now. It's just a refocusing of your energy. All right.
It's only 3 minutes long.
Yeah. I mean, this is an ancient tape that you're going to see. That's what I was coming up. My son then called me the ancient one. But I mean, it's an old one. But the principle is eternal.
We got something for you. Hold on.
Does this make sense? Anybody can, is anything I share with you make sense? It's most important in young people. I mean, we hear it a lot, but they're going to live more into it than we are. I'm trying to stay here so I can help my son navigate with it. I want to be here to help him navigate with something we ain't never had to confront. My mother then was from Mississippi. They never knew the depression. Yeah. But we got to also be intentional too. And I'm not talking about suffering. See, everybody think what I'm talking about, oh, you're going to suffer. You know? I'm not saying you do like I do. Like I live off grid. I got solar panels, compost toilets. I heat with wood. You might have smelled some of it when I came in. I don't smell civilized. Yeah. I was stroking that fire, but I also use propane. But we don't have a lot of time. And the elders have to get off it and not have conversations separateness from our young people. Because you don't have time. We got to embrace and love them because the storm that's coming is something beyond anything we've ever experienced in 25,000 years. It's not me saying this, it's the science that's saying. You don't even have to look at the science, just go outside and look around you. Don't be like who Richard Pryor told his wife. My wife don't like me to say this. He said, babe, what you gonna believe? What your eyes see or what my lips tell you? That's when she got caught in a hotel with another lady. Don't believe what the word that's out here. Look, see, feel what's going on around you. Don't believe what people are saying, not even so much for me without looking and seeing it. It has no action in you unless you see it. I can waste words, blow dust from my mouth. It creates no fire out there. And if there's no fire, there's no action. If you ever started a fire, you gotta have dry wood. Okay? And that dry wood is wood over time that ignites the flame and keep it sustained. We have to become, as elders, dry wood for the young. If we don't, you can forget a 50-year plan because it won't be one. Just imagine if that was us as the cricket and it was white people that was the ants. Yeah, we dancing and singing and joking and entertaining. You think they're going to let that door open for us? History doesn't say that. We can hope and go to Jesus, as some of us say. And that's not going to happen. It's no historical evidence, factual evidence that somebody's going to save you. Okay? In times, look at Katrina. The Ninth Ward is still undeveloped. Look at the last storms that's been occurring throughout this country. The area that was the most neglected was the one that we lived in. Resources did not get in. So we can't be illusioned about it. And it's not like you have to carry this like it's depressing. We have to learn how to live with what is and not be depressed. I mean, I got constraints. I got a body. That's a constraint, right? I'm lives within the boundaries of my skin. And when I overextend that, I have problems. And that problem is only wisdom mirroring back to me that I have boundaries, like the white line in the highway. When you go on that side, if you survive, get back over here, then you learn something, right? So have experiences, have fun, but don't forget what you just saw. The storm is coming. It's a cycle, like winter comes every year. This is not new. But somewhere we have to fold time with our young people and our elders. And the elders have to get off this thing about making them wrong. Because we never had to grow up with what they have to grow up with. Nobody didn't intentionally, when I'm 67, nobody was intentionally to set special areas systematically and contaminate the food so I couldn't think. It's intentional. So we get mad and be making everybody wrong, but we're not really looking at where it's coming from. It's a misdirection of your complaint. It's not that. It's a misdirection of the complaint. Don't blame the people, blame the system. It's the system, not you or me, so we need to have compassion with each other. It's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's the system. I remember when Jimmy Carter, that was President Clinton, talking about it's the economy, stupid. It's the system. It's not the person. You don't even think. So I'm gonna get mad at you. You don't even have any independent thoughts or feelings. You can only get mad at somebody that's intentional. Right? Somebody intentionally harmed you, but not randomly raving something because their internal state was not what they. I don't think anybody get up in the morning and say, I'm gonna mess somebody up. How many people I'm gonna give hell today? 10, 5, 6. I'm gonna raise hell with my mom. I'm gonna give her a hard time. I'm gonna give my wife a difficult time. Most of the time it's because I'm internally having a difficult time. So what sourcing is what we need to point to. Not me. The system. And we have to begin to think systematically. Because it's the system that we're working against. So, but in addressing this system problem, we can make money. I hate to keep saying that, okay? If we made fabrics, or even, I can show you over time people that are doing this, so I don't want you to think that I'm just up here blowing dust out of my mouth. I can show you people that actually make a living doing this stuff. And it increase their value over time. Okay? So I just want you to know that I love all of you, and I'm really grateful to be here. This is the first time I spoke to anybody in 5 years. Okay? Because I thought it was too late. I thought it was too late to talk. Because talking doesn't mean anything if you have an internal ejaculation with it. Okay? It's like preaching. You get excited, you get all vibrant, but you don't do anything.
Yes, sir.
I said I wouldn't do that no more. I'm not trying to inspire. My commitment is to ignite, not inspire, because inspiration only lasts as long as you wipe the sweat off your brow. Yeah. Okay? It ain't gonna last. You get inspired on Sunday, you come back and get it cleaned up on Monday. Yeah. So inspiration is okay. Fire is better. Fire is compassion. Fire is commitment. There's an old statement that he who's committed, all matters of resource appear out of nowhere. Physical, spiritual, material. But if you're not committed, nothing happens. And you know what I mean by commitment? Y'all know what I mean by commitment. Commitment is a conversation most of us don't even want to have. Yeah. Commitment is saying, if I say I'm going over there to those candles, I make the first step, I get knocked back 2. I make 3 steps, I get back knocked back 3. I make 4 steps, I get knocked back 5. Get 10 steps, I get knocked back 1. You got to be able to hold the flame long enough to get the outcome that you say you want to have. Okay? That's commitment and concentration. And you got to really recognize that messy is part of living. It looks messy when you build something. So don't take the stuff that's already been built and project it onto yourself. The moment you do that, you will be disempowered. Especially when y'all say, I don't look good. What look good compared to what? You know, you're looking at something that's been built for hundreds of years. You're trying to create something that ain't there. So it looks messy. So messy is like going to the kitchen. I want all of us to go to the kitchen. At kitchen, it looks sloppy. You got dough all over the place. You done made a failure. One cake, it collapsed on you, so you got to start over again. But that's the nature of being in the kitchen. We have to help our people remember the nature of building something. And that allows us to be resilient. If you don't build it, ain't nobody coming to build it for you.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm looking at it now, how they trying to, we was at Cook County, right? So we went in there with this face in the sky, with this dream about collaboration with all the hospitals and all that. And the chief financial officer sat me and my wife down and told me that's not true. People are verbally saying that, but in actuality not doing it. So you can't look at the lips only. You got to look at the practice. So it's the practice, and sometimes practice is hard because you want to stop. Okay? Practice is hard because everything around you tell you need to stop. This is abnormal. It's not normal. Normal is not being disciplined and practicing. Abnormal is saying that I want to do something and I'll be rigorously trying to do it, no matter how I look at the end of the day. Children got it real good. They fall down and duck to get the dust off and don't worry about what they look like. We get older, we forget that. Who saw me? Wow, that wasn't too cool. I feel bad social media wise. I had a meltdown. Forget that. Creation is a meltdown. It's messy. I mean, God had to take a break. It was messy 6 days. I mean, so if the Creator was messy, and we standing here from after a mess, I mean, how can we not be thinking better than that?
Yes, sir.
So, but at the end of it, there was creation. We have to share this with our people because we have forgotten this. That's why we can't hold nothing long enough to get it done. 5 minutes, by the time we walk out the room, everybody be fighting about what to do. Great idea, we all motivated and all that kind of stuff, but 10 stocks down, everybody done fell out. So we have to invite our people. We don't know this, we forgot it. We forgot that it's messy to build a house. But if you don't build a house, you ain't got no place to stay. Okay? And it's messy. Come out and build with us and see how messy it is building a building. But once you build that building, you have a sense of accomplishment. A sense of accomplishment that you couldn't even measure if you hadn't stopped. If you had stopped, you wouldn't get that experience. So we have to support our people.